Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the concentration of a report led by Mr. Paradero. Article 415, Budget Authorization, Subsection A, Legislative authorization of the budget on or before the end of the current fiscal year, the Sanggunian concerned shall enact through an ordinance the budget of the LGU for the ensuing fiscal year on the basis of estimates of income and expenditures submitted by the local chief executive. Ang legislative authorization, budget, before mag-end ang current fiscal year, ang sanggunian concern ana mag-enact siya og ordinance. Annual budget sa LGU for the following fiscal year, ka-base dito ang income niya, expenditure niya, isubmit na siya sa local chief executive, ibalik na siya dito sa local chief executive kay sila man ang nangayo ana nga budget, executive budget, diba? Case the sanggunian concerned failed to pass the ordinance authorizing the annual appropriations at the beginning of the ensuing fiscal year, the ordinance authorizing the appropriations of the preceding year shall be deemed reenacted. So in case nga ang sangguniang concern dili niya mapasahan og ordinance nag-authorize ang annual appropriations at the beginning of that following year, bali ang ordinance ato nga ga-authorize sa appropriation atong niaging tuig, mahimo siya nga ma-reenacted. So kung dili siya kapasa og ordinance, ang katong ordinance last year, mabalik to siya, ma-reenact siya automatic. The sanggunian shall continue to hold sessions without additional remuneration for its member until the ordinance authorizing the annual appropriation is approved, and no other business must be taken up during sessions. So meaning, ang sanggunian, magpadayon gyapon na sila hold og session, pero wala na additional nga sweldo. Up until nga makuha na kanang nanay ordinance nga mag-authorize sa annual appropriation sa pa sila ma-additionalan og kanang sweldo nila or honorarium ba. Sanggunian still fails to enact such ordinance after 90 days from the beginning of the fiscal year, the reenacted budget shall remain force and effect until such time that the ordinance of the annual appropriation is approved by the sanggunian concerned. So ibig sabihin kung ang sanggunian dili gihapon maka-make og ordinance after 90 days from the beginning of that fiscal year, buot pasabot ang reenacted budget, magpadayon siya hantod sa mahatagan sila og ordinance nga authorize sa annual appropriation nila hantod sa ma-approve to. Only the annual appropriation for salaries, wages of existing positions, statutory and contractual obligation, and essential operating expenses authorized in the annual and supplemental budgets for the preceding year shall be deemed reenacted, and disbursement of funds shall be accordance within. So, buot pasabot nga katurang appropriation sa salaries, sa wages of existing position, bali existing na siya daan, dili siya katong bago pa lang ni sulod. So, uban ani maora pod like uban sa statutory and contractual obligation essential expenses authorized in the annual and supplemental budget of the last year, maora siya shall be deemed reenacted, maoray ma-reenact ug ang disbursement ra sa fund in accordance ra pod ato nga nagasto. The implementation of the reenacted budget, the local treasurer concerned shall exclude from estimates of income for the preceding year those realized from non-recurring resources like national aids, proceeds from loans, sales of asset, prior year adjustments, and other analogous sources of income. National aid shall not include in the era of LGU and their shares in the utilization of the development of national wealth. No ordinance authorizing supplemental appropriation shall be passed in place of annual appropriations. In case of the revised income estimate be less than the aggregate reenacted appropriation, the local treasurer concerned shall be accordingly advise the sangguniang concerned, which shall within 10 days from receipt of such advice, make necessary adjustments of reductions. Subsection B, veto power of the local chief executive. The local chief executive may veto an ordinance of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, Sangguniang Panglungsod, or Sangguniang Bayan on the ground and its ultra vires of prejudicial to the public welfare, stating his reasons therefore in writing. So, dili lang di ang president ang na-veto power. Appeal na ang local chief executive. So, pwede po sila nga ilahang i-veto, no? Ang ordinance gikan sa Sangguniang Panlalawigan, Sangguniang Panglungsod, o Sangguniang Bayan. Pero, state niya ang reasons. The local chief executive except the punong barangay. So, dili pwede ang barangay captain shall exercise the power to veto any particular item or items of an appropriations ordinance or an ordinance or resolution adopting a local development plan and public investment program or an ordinance directing the payment of money or creating liability. In such cases, the veto shall not affect the item or items which are not objected to. The veto item or item shall not be take effect unless Sanggunian overrides the veto in manner provided in Rule 17 of the rules. Otherwise, the item or items in the appropriation ordinance the previous year corresponding to these vetoed, if any, shall be deemed re-enacted. Okay, let's proceed to Article 416, Effectivity of Budgets. The ordinance enacting the annual budget shall take effect at the beginning of the ensuing calendar year. So, mag-start ngayon ang pag-enact sa annual budget, ana yung pinakasugod anang tuiga. Subsection B, the supplemental budget shall take effect upon its approval or on the date fixed on the ordinance. So, ang lahi ang sa annual budget o sa supplemental budget. Kasi annual budget, magsugod bid siya ana at the beginning of the calendar year. But si supplemental budget, kay mo take effect lang siya upon its approval. So, kung na-approve na, no, or kanusa ang date nga na-fix sa ordinance. And the local chief executive shall be primarily responsible for the execution and accountability of the annual and supplemental budget. So, ang responsible aning nga kwartaha, no, sa kada tuig ug ang supplemental budget, ang kana yung local chief executive. Article 417, changes in the annual budget. So, changes in annual budget may be done through supplemental budget, no? Pero, no ordinance providing for a supplemental budget shall be enacted except for the following. So, walay ordinance nga mag-provide og supplemental budget, no? Except lang ani. A, when supported by funds actually available as certified by the local treasurer or by the revenue resources. So, except lang kung supported siya sa funds, no? Supported na siya nga naa na mismo available na siya sa local treasurer or sa kanang mga revenue resources, kanang mga income man, no? Funds actually available refers to the amount of money actually collected as certified by the local treasurer. So, bot pasabot aning funds actually available katutong kwarta nga na-collect na mismo, no, sa treasurer. Nga sobra pa siya sa realized estimated income of that year. Subot pasabot, sobra na siya sa kanang ilahang na-estimate nga income. An appropriation ordinance providing for the supplemental budget source out of funds actually available shall be enacted only once during the fiscal year. Subot pasabot, katong supplemental budget nga out of funds na, wala na kwarta, no? Wala na funds actually available, ma-enact lang siya only once during that fiscal year. Okay, subsection B. In times of public calamity, by way of budgetary realignment, to set aside appropriation for the purchase of supplies and materials or the payment of service which are not exceptionally urgent or absolutely indispensable to prevent imminent danger, loss of life or property. Dili na siya nag-ordinance kung in times of public calamity. So, kanang kuana para ma-prevent ang ang sa tawag ani kanang further damage, no, loss of life, for example na ay kinahanglan i-repair nga school. So para dili dangerous, dili siya kanang hazardous, dili siya kanang delikado para sa mga estudyante, i-repair gina nila daan kay kuan man siya kanang importante man siya, no, para ma-prevent na lang pod in case og naay linog-linog diha or unsa ba, no. Article 418, reversion of unexpended balances of appropriation, continuing appropriations. Article 418, subsection A. Unexpended balances appropriations authorized in the appropriation ordinance shall revert to the balance at the end of the fiscal year and shall not thereafter be available for expenditure except by subsequent enactment. So, mo ni siya ako nadunggan last time nga pag dili gani siya mahurot o dili siya mahurot o gasto ana nga tuig, ibalik gid na ang budget padulong dito ug dili na siya available nga gastuhon. Subsection B. Reversion for continuing appropriations shall not be allowed unless obligations therefore have been fully paid or otherwise settled balances of continuing appropriation shall be renewed as part of the annual budget preparation. The Sangguniang concerned may approve upon recommendation of the local chief executive the reversion of funds no longer needed in connection with the activities funded by said continuing appropriations. Buot pasabot aning continuing appropriation, it refers to appropriations available to support obligation for the specified purpose or project, even when these obligations are beyond the budget year. Article 419, budgetary requirements. The budgets of LGUs for any fiscal year shall comply with the following requirements. Article 419, subsection A. The aggregate amount appropriate shall not exceed the estimates of income. So, dili siya pwede, no? Ang amounts appropriate, dili siya pwede nga mula pa siya sa estimates of income di ay. Subsection B, full provision shall be made of all statutory and contractual obligations of the LGU concerned, provided that the amount of appropriation for debt servicing shall not exceed 20% of the regular income of the LGU concerned. When we say regular income, this refers to the estimates of regular income for the budget year as determined by the local finance committee. Subsection C. In the case of provinces, cities, and municipalities, aid to barangay shall be provided in amounts of not less than 1,000 pesos per barangay. Subsection D. 5% of the estimated revenue from regular sources shall be set aside as an annual lump sum appropriation for unforeseen expenditure arising from the occurrence of calamities, provided that such appropriation shall be used only in the area of a portion thereof of the LGU or other areas declared in the state of calamity by the President. So, 5% sa estimated revenue ninyo, kinahanglan jud siya nga iset aside kay in case of unforeseen kanang dili gidahom nga mga paggasto na mga emergency expenditures, at least na may magamit. No, it can be provided for matabang sa ilaha. Article 420, general limitations. So what are the limitations of this act? A. The total appropriation, whether annual or supplementary for personal services of the LGU for 1 year shall not exceed 45%. So, ang total appropriation niya, no, for annual or supplemental, dili gyud siya dapat nga mulapas og 45%. So, in the case of first to third class provinces, dili po siya mulapas og 55%. In the case of fourth or lower provinces, municipalities, or the total annual income from regular resources realized the next preceding fiscal year. So, the appropriation for salaries and wages Representation and transportation allowances of officials and employees of public concern shall not be included in the annual budget. So katong mga salaries nila, wages nila, transportation allowance, dili gyud siya dili siya iusa sa annual budget, no? Ug dili pud siya mausa og compute sa maximum amount of personal services. The appropriation of personal services of such economic enterprises shall be charged to the respective budgets. The limitation prescribed therein shall apply only after the LGU shall have complied with the implementation of Republic Act number 6758 or Salary Standardization Law for existing and mandatory positions. Section B, no official or employee shall be entitled to a salary rate higher than the maximum fixed for his position or other position of equivalent rank by applicable laws and regulation issued thereunder. So, walay ni isa nga official or employee nga iyahang salary niya taas pa sa maximum fixed for his position. So, kung mauna ihang sweldo, mauna yun na, di mo na pwede palabasan. No? Based sa ihang position kung unsa na siya nga kuan. Sa iyang rank. Subsection C, no local fund shall be appropriated to increase or adjust salaries or wages of officials employees of the national government except as may be expressed in the unauthorized by law. So walay kwarta nga gamiton para i-adjust para patasan ang sweldo sa biskan unsa man nga official or employee sa national government. Subsection D, in cases of abolition of positions and creation of new ones resulting from the abolition of existing position in the career service, such abolition or creation shall be made in accordance with the pertinent provisions of the rules on service law, rules and regulation. Subsection E, positions in the official plantilla for career positions shall be which are occupied by incumbents holding permanent appropriation shall be covered by the adequate appropriation. Subsection F, if no changes in designation or nomenclature of position resulting in promotion or demotion of rank or increase or decrease of compensation shall be allowed, except when a position is actually vacant, and the filing of such position shall be strictly made in accordance with the civil law and the rules and regulations. So, dili na pwede nga, no? Walay magbago when it comes to designations, no? Of positions, no? Mag-result sa promotion or paubos, i-demotion bitaw kay marag paubson ang ranggo, increase or decrease of compensation. Dili na siya allowed, except lang kung ang position kay bakante. And the filling of such position shall be strictly made in accordance with the civil service law. Subsection G, the creation of new positions and salary increases or adjustment shall in no case be made retroactive. So, ibig sabihin, nabot pasabot ani, kung mag-create og new position na ay increase sa salary, no, na adjustment sa salary, dili siya pwede nga kanabitawng retroactive, apilo nimo ang past nga kuan nga pa sa kalingkod, pero prospective siya from that moment ang imong account sugod ra na adlaw pa future, dili diha pa past, so nasako pa ang past. Subsection H, the annual appropriation for discretionary purposes of the local chief executive shall not exceed 2% of the actual receipt derived from basic real property tax in the next preceding calendar year. Discretionary funds shall be disbursed only for public purposes to be supported by appropriate vouchers and subject to such guideline as may be prescribed by law. No amount shall be appropriated for the same purpose except as authorized in this article. The next section 421, review of appropriations ordinances of provinces, highly urbanized cities, and independent component cities and municipalities within Manila area. Annual or supplemental appropriations of provinces, highly urbanized cities, independent cities, and municipalities within Metro Manila in accordance with the immediately succeeding article. Article 422, review of appropriations ordinances of component cities and municipalities, subsection A. The Sangguniang Panlalawigan shall review the ordinances authorizing annual or supplemental appropriations of component cities and municipalities in the same manner and within the same period prescribed for the review of the ordinances. So, ang Sangguniang Panlalawigan, sila ang mag-review sa mga ordinances na mag-authorize nga annual o supplemental appropriation sa component cities and municipalities rapod. Subsection B, if within 90 days from receipt of copies of appropriation ordinances, component cities, and municipalities, the Sangguniang Lalawigan takes no action, thereon the same shall be deemed to be reviewed in accordance with law and shall continue to be in full force and effect. If within the same period the Sangguniang Panlalawigan shall have ascertained that the ordinance authorizing annual or supplemental appropriation has not complied with the budgetary requirements and limitation provided in this rule, the Sangguniang Panlalawigan shall, within the 90-day period herein prescribed, declare such ordinances inoperative in its entirely or in part items of appropriation contrary to limitation prescribed in this rule or in excess of the amounts prescribed herein shall be disallowed or reduced accordingly. The Sangguniang Panlalawigan shall within the same period advise the Sangguniang Panglungsod or Sangguniang Bayan concerned with the local chief executive of any action on the ordinance under review. Upon receipt of such advice, the city or municipal treasurer concerned shall not make further disbursement of funds from any items of appropriation declared inoperative, disallowed, or reduced. Subsection C, the appropriations of ordinary administrative purposes not duly obligated shall terminate with the fiscal year and the unexpended balances thereof shall be automatically reverted in the 31st day of December under each year of the General Fund of LGU. Article 243, preparation of barangay budgets. Unless otherwise provided in this rule, in all income of the barangay from whatever source shall accrue to its general fund and shall the option of the barangay concerned be kept in trust fund in the custody of the city municipal treasurer or be disposed in a bank, preferably government-owned, situated in the nearest to its area of jurisdiction, shall funds be disbursed in the accordance of provision of this rule. Subsection B, on or before the 5th day of September of each year, the city or municipal treasurer, jointly with a city and municipal accountant, shall use a certified statement and ensuing fiscal year from local sources. So the barangay concerned, based on such certified statement, the barangay treasurer to submit on the 15th day of September of each year. So the punong barangay, a statement covering estimates of income expenditures the past, current, and ensuing fiscal years. So upon receipt of the statement of income, the expenditures from barangay treasurer or the punong barangay shall prepare the barangay budget of the ensuing. So sila mag-prepare sila og budget nila, no? And subsection D, the total annual appropriation of barangay for personal services, benefits provided under applicable laws for one fiscal year shall not exceed 55% in the total annual income realized from local sources. Subsection E, a barangay budget including changes therein shall be subject to same budgetary requirements and limitations applicable to other government budgets. The barangay ordinance enacting the annual budget shall take effect at the beginning of the ensuing calendar year. An ordinance enacting a supplemental budget shall take effect upon its approval and the date fixed there. Subsection G, the punong barangay shall be primarily responsible. No, responsible ang punong barangay sa execution ani mo siya accountable sa nagasto sa annual and supplemental budget sa tibok barangay. Article 424, review barangay budget. So within 10 days of its approval, copies of barangay ordinance authorizing the annual appropriation shall be furnished the Sangguniang Panlungsod or Sangguniang Bayan through the city or municipal budget officer. So as the case may be, subsection B, the sanggunian concerned shall review the barangay ordinance. So ang sanggunian mismo, sila ang mag-review sa barangay ordinance. So within 60 days, after the receipt sa barangay ordinance sanggunian, kung wala rin gihapon sila ng action, so katong ordinance gihapon, magpadayon gihapon siya full force and effect. So kung dili gihapon siya in the same period, wala gihapon na kanang natagag ordinance no nga contain sa appropriation in excess of the estimate, or at the same time has not complied within the established budgetary requirement, so katong ordinance ma-declare siya nga inoperative in its entirely or in part. Subsection D, so within the established reglementary period, the sangguniang panglungsod or sangguniang bayan concerned, ibalik na niya ang barangay ordinance dito through city or municipal budget officer. So kanang punong barangay, ma-advise siya to take action in the form of resolution or letter and may be prescribed na sanggunian concerned for proper and appropriate adjustments and corrections. So Article 425, last two articles, Barangay Financial Procedures. The barangay treasurer shall collect, ang barangay treasurer siya ang mag-collect sa taxes nila, fees nila, and other charges, no? Nga kanang mga contributions. So, official receipt shall be issued for all such collections. So, naagi resibo tanan. Subsection B, so when deputized by the provincial or city municipal treasurer, the barangay treasurer shall collect real property taxes. Pwede sila mag-collect og real property taxes ug uban pa nga taxes basta as may be imposed by province, city, municipality, and as the case may be due the barangay. Subsection C, so within 5 days after the receipt of collections, ang barangay treasurer iyahan na nang i-deposit tanang collection dito sa city or municipal treasurer or sa depository account maintained in the name of the barangay. Subsection D, the barangay treasurer may be authorized by the sangguniang bayan to unsa. So ang barangay treasurer na authorize siya sa sangguniang bayan nga mag-hold og petty cash nga dili siya mo exceed og 20% sa funds available. Ikaduha, pwede siya nga mo direct purchase no amounting to not more than 1,000 pesos at any time for ordinary and essential needs of the barangay. So pwede siya nga mo diretso siya og palit basta dili lang gyud siya musubra og 1,000 sa mga kinahanglanon sa sulod sa barangay. Then, subsection E of Article 425, the financial records of the barangay such as book, mga ledger, mga statement of income and expenditure, balance sheet nila, trial balance, and other documents shall be kept in the office. So, i-keep dito siya sa office of the city or municipal accountant. So, ang COA shall prescribe or Commission on Audit shall prescribe simplified procedures for barangay finances within 6 months after approval of these rules. Article 426, responsibility of the Department of Budget and Management and the Commission on Audit. So, subsection A, the DBM jointly with COA shall within 1 year of the effectivity of these rules promulgate a budget operations manual for LGUs to improve system methods, techniques, and procedures in local government, budget preparation, authorization, and execution and accountability. So, kaning DBM, nakihiyo siya sa COA, within 1 year, within 1 year sa effectivity sa rules, maghimo na sila og budget operations manual. Nga mahimo nila nga sundan nila like what are the systematized methods, the techniques and procedures on how to manage the budget and also to execute and to be accountable of that money. Subsection B, the DBM shall promulgate such administrative issuance as may be needed from time to time relative to implementation of the provision of this rule. And subsection C, the DBM shall upon request of LGU extend technical assistance and local government budgeting. So, although this has been a very long report, but I hope that you have understand bisan pagdili tanan. But thank you so much for listening and God bless us all.